have something for you.
Say hello to my little friend.
Welcome, everyone, to the Quad Damage Podcast once again. And joining me, as usual, is, of course, Midnight Medium and our esteemed editor, Robert. And, of course, we have our guests, Tibor of Fatbot Games.
Hi, guys.
And Tobacco Tantoni.
Hello.
How's it going? And today we're going to be talking a lot about Gravelord and digging into everything Gravelord, of course.
Yeah.
So, before we fully dive in, it's that time. Are you ready?
Go. Yes.
Yeah. Let's get booming. Strict as always. Yeah, anyway. Nice to meet you, Tibor, and
Nice to meet you
great
guys.
to have you on. I've been playing a lot of Gravelord. Good shit. Good shit.
Thanks. I'm glad. Yeah, glad.
But let's just start it off with an easy one. What inspired like the concept for Gravelord and its gameplay and stuff? Obviously, there's a lot of Quake and stuff like that.
Yeah. So actually, it's funny because when before we founded the studio FatbotGames Games, we actually founded it, me and my year-long friend Matej Zajacik, and he actually was my roommate. And I was at that time I quit my job at a company making games for Activision, and basically he was looking for a room. I rented him one room in my flat, and I started building a dungeon crawler, Vaporum, which actually became our first game. And he was just like looking at it, and he started tinkering with the stuff and like joined me. But at that time, he also was saying like, yeah, maybe we should make like something like a Doom-like game, and that sounds cool. And I think it's gonna come back. Because like at that time there was the Strafe game, and it was not really what we would expect for a revival of that genre. And he had a couple of ideas, and one really cool one was a guy who's a gravedigger, And but at that time I already had like the basic prototype for Vaporum done, and we actually didn't really want to pivot or like get sidetracked. So we basically back to it. That was actually like really a stupid idea, maybe. But actually, like Matej was the first initiator of the idea. But after we done Vaporum, we actually got an investor for the company that like also is still together with us in the company right now. And it's also a really funny story because like those guys are not really investors in the sense where how you would understand it in a commercial sense. But those are two guys who own a software company. Total nerdy, geeky guys who love video games, but they was an enterprise software company that they started in university, and they did really well, and they wanted to invest in a studio. So, and actually, one of them is my neighbor, like two doors down. He lives, and it was really funny. I was sick when they called me, and like. I don't want to get into that too much, but that was the first idea. And then afterwards, when we did the two first games, Vaporum and Vaporum Lockdown, then it was like, look, everyone's doing the boomer shooter thing, but we're always late to the party, and no one knows us. And then we also stand in the corner like usual introverts that we are, and we don't talk to anyone, and we're just like, here's our game, guys.
Yeah. Hey, but if you bust the door down like you guys did with Gravelord, foul mouthed and just ready to party, I think it's a pretty good intro.
That's the thing that we actually wanted to create such a character a long time, because like what we were missing in the boomer shooter genre was a strong character like Duke Nukem, right?
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree.
And I mean, okay, it's not for maybe everyone. The commentary and like everything, like the character of Guido, main character, but I mean, we thought that was missing, but we also had one phase where we got involved with talking to publishers, and everyone was giving us like, yeah, what's the unique selling point? Like, what's the hook? And everyone was just about the hook. And we lost so much time during this that like the game would come out even earlier, like a year earlier, if we would hunker down and not do anything with the publisher.
Yeah.
Speaking of delays, and if that's the case, then what sort of challenges do you face during development? How do you overcome such challenges? Do you come across them as they come along, or is there like a list that you just tick off or something?
Well, the biggest challenges came out of nowhere. Like one of them was one of our team members getting really sick, not really sick, but like a really bad health scare, right? Which is still going on, but like it's manageable. So that was like the biggest challenge. Like we thought like, because when we started, we were four guys from previously, we were employed by AAA and AA studios, right? And we worked on like Space Engineers or DayZ or Arma and the Mafia series. Like we did a couple of assets for them, and like for the remaster too. And like it's
that's cool though.
It's like we were all around and we were friends, right? We were really tight friends, and basically I was in the middle, and all of the guys who joined knew me. Yeah, so we were really like, that was a big challenge. We were really that was really quite scary and like sad or something. And
right.
But the challenge, like the biggest challenge was the money, obviously, where we did find the investor, and like we were lucky, very lucky, because like these guys, I mean, if I would have to say like what was the luckiest thing during our existence was finding Richard and Otto. So because they are like always on our side, they always try to support us as much as they can, and they trust us, and but they still like, usually like a typical investor would tell you like, guys, it's not working, you're not making any money, you're just like existing, like, because what we earn we burn, right? And they would get out. But these guys, they stayed with us, they understand the market, like that it's like they understand the market post hoc, right? So everyone knows what the situation right now is, like it's really hard. And for us, we're not really that inventive game designers who come up with some new mechanic and flash and can sell it. We are much more craftsmen, right? We can do really well optimized, really well designed and balanced games, which I right now don't consider Gravelord to be. Like the game needs a lot of polish, but optimized it's really well. Like we run high frame rates even on low end machines. But yeah, those challenges are like basically money, then the marketing. Like marketing and PR is like huge, and I bust my ass off with the PR marketing on this project, because previously we basically no one in our team is a PR person, right? So that was like the biggest challenge for me, because I started everything, I put everyone together, so it was my responsibility to do the shittiest thing. I'm sorry, but like the worst thing, the hardest thing the project, which is PR and marketing. And I busted my hump like really a lot. And then next day after you release the game, Doom Dark Ages gets announced, and everyone like, and it was like I'm laughing now, but I was at that time, it was horrible.
I'm
because
sure.
I felt something is happening, because like I had multiple YouTubers talking to me like, yeah, send me the key, I'll try to cover it, if blah blah blah. And but the response was not really great, but I knew something is coming, and so they told me like, yeah, it's cool, I like it, but I will not be able to cover it because I have to cover other games. And I was like, yeah, you're like FPS specialized, and what other games are coming? And I was like, yeah, hopefully not Doom. And yeah, so
right, yeah.
And also like Wishlists, obviously that was a big challenge. Like I had to study everything that Chris Zukowski like put out, and like I'm an architect by education, but I worked with games since I was a little kid. Since I was 8 years old, I started learning as assembler to code games, and so I'm not a PR person. I'm not an extrovert, right?
Right.
I'm like, the way you have to think to do that, it's completely different to what you have to do to be creative visually and technically, you know. And that's like the biggest challenge for me to switch, and for the other team members too, like Mate, the co-founder, my partner in the company. His biggest challenge too is context switching seats, so to say, switching professions, because like he helps out not only with he's a gameplay coder mainly and game designer, mechanics designer, system designer, and I'm much more of a story designer and character designer and art direction, and I do level design too. So that was like a challenge to do the production stuff and to upload everything on Steam, to manage when you had some platform management. We released previous games on PlayStation and Xbox, etc. So this is really like it's really time consuming. And also then like one of the challenges was finding the right people, because we were 4 guys. And we basically had a couple of people come and go who helped us, and we have a couple of people who help us outside of the company with animations, character animations, for example, or characters, etc. But finding proper level designers, and this challenge was overcome, I think, really in a huge way, where I started talking to people in the Quake community, Quake mapping community, and one guy, Marky Music, you can know him as Marky Music. He's one of the best mappers in the current Quake community. He basically joined us, helped us with a vertical slice level, and then we started talking with his friends from the community, and they joined, like Fairweather, Luna Run, Sputnik, Dragons for Lunch, and like also with me and Daniel, other team member, we did couple of levels and also edited a couple of the blockouts from the Quake guys. So we did level design too, but I would say that mainly we were concentrated on the output that these guys did. So that was one big challenge. And yeah, some of the challenges you can see throughout the development. You have to think about them, like PR and budgeting, etc. But
you wear a lot of hats, don't you?
Yeah, like, dude, like I have like 12-hour work days, I would say, because like I have an 8-hour work day, but then a couple of hours after that you listen to podcasts, right? You watch videos,
right, discussions, and reviews.
Yeah,
and all that.
you read the forums, you read the Reddits, you read. So I would say like it's around 12 hours, and during counting weekends too. Like during the weekends, it's just a couple of hours. But like indie development is really hard. I mean, especially for someone who used to be specialized, because I was specialized on user interface design and art and level or like asset or environment art. I started doing level design mainly for Vaporum and Lockdown, and then Gravelord.
What engine is the game in? Like
it's Unity. It's Unity.
It's Unity. Okay.
Really?
It's modded Unity.
Has that the jibbing of Quake and stuff. So it's I was kind of like, I don't know, obviously it's like graphically a bit more intensive than something like the Quake engine, than that, that engine at the time. And then, but it reminded me of
Unity though.
Immortal Redneck, which was made in Unity, and it kind of like some parallels with the way the guns felt and stuff like that. I don't know if you played that game or not.
No, I didn't. We always say that our game was made despite Unity.
Despite it.
There's no help from Unity.
I'm not the coder, so I can't talk on their behalf, but I think it's fine if I say that like we had a lot of stress with some things in Unity, but now I think that we have it quite under control, and because we had a lot of stuff done to contain Unity's quirks, but Unreal seemed too much for us. Like Unity is fine, it's versatile, and we are able to port our games ourselves. The first game wasn't ported by us, but the second one was. So Unity.
You mentioned wish lists earlier. Just real quick, just like, how often do wish lists actually translate into sales? I feel like there's usually more wish lists than there are sales.
Yeah, so obviously, there are more wish lists than sales, but the problem with wish lists is that right now everyone optimizes towards wish lists. So I have a hypothesis that wish lists don't really matter that much anymore as they used to a couple of years ago. because like even Chris Zukowski, like the amount of information that he puts out towards like earning wish lists,
Right.
so much, and everyone optimizes towards them. So obviously, it should work like they are devalued, or like what's the word? For us, we had like under 20k wish lists at launch, right? And like I wanted to like postpone the release later, but Richard and like said like no, we really should already do something, because like let's put it out. So we did, and like it's not great. Like we really are, like the algorithm, even the thing with 10 reviews, that you, when you get 10 reviews, like you're fine. It doesn't work that way. It's only like I think that in majority it might work, but you cannot rely on that. You always have to have like really plan A, plan B, C, D, E, and the wish lists, to my opinion, are like, I would say that Steam is not really great, I would say, for visibility of your game. You always have to have...
It's a pretty saturated market.
Yeah, there's like, what, 20,000 games a year released? Something like that.
Yeah. So it's a situation where, I mean, sometimes you don't pass the submission on Steam, and the reason is some kind of thing in your icon, right?
Right.
And then you see games that passed, and like, what the hell?
And there's like just a,
like,
just
what
an
is
anime
this?
girl
What
with
is this?
boobs, and you're like,
yeah.
okay,
So, but
this
then
passed, but okay. Yeah.
I mean, usually when I see games in our genre that are really successful, then it's earned. I would really, I have to say, like, in our genre, it's like the community and the target audience is really, they know their stuff, and they're able to know what's good, but it's saturated. So we have great reviews, but like, look, the major YouTubers, like, I try to contact Civi, I try to contact G-Man, and like, to no avail. Right? Splattercat sent me a reply like, it's a movement shooter. I don't play those. And I'm like, no, it's no movement shooter. It's just like the shovel that is there. But and ignore it, you know? So it's, I mean, you really have to have connections. You have to have and also Steam, like, I don't really trust that it works in a way that is
it's also just really difficult to market things and stuff like that in general, I feel like.
It was always
but it does feel like that there is a boomer shooter that's released every week, and that it's hard to separate yourself from the crowd in regards to it.
Out of curiosity, because that was the thing I enjoyed the most out of it, I like zipping around throughout the maps that were really well designed with that shovel. I wanted to know, was there anything that directly inspired that from any other games, or was that just kind of a cool idea that organically happened with the map design?
Yeah, so we knew that, like, I was, at first, Matej wanted the game just to be like, the character is a gravedigger, right? And he shoots stuff. And I said, like, yeah, but we need to separate ourselves somehow. We need to find something. And so when I was developing the backstory and the character of Guido, then I thought, like, yeah, like, we should maybe something have, like, his mother was a Romani witch, right? And his father was a high class gravedigger, and so I thought, like, maybe he could have like a inheritance, like legacy, like the inheritance would be his father's shovel and his mother's ability to use the tarot cards and like to manipulate the reality, right? So I pitched this, and maybe the shovel was also in the team. Someone maybe mentioned it, but I don't really remember who it was. But it was like a low-hanging fruit idea. And someone said it, and everyone went like, yeah, it would be cool. But of course, Matej, who would then have to design the mechanic and all around it, was like, oh my God, no, why? It's not. So it's always this way. Like, he hates me because I always come with an idea, and like, we have back and forth, but I think it should work that way. Then, yeah, it was more organic. And then we started, like, I think that what the shovel is now, and what we also are thinking about for a different project, I may say something later about this. So tomorrow utilize the shovel, and for the second and the third episode we will try to utilize it much more. In this episode we used it more as a gating mechanism for getting access to different parts of the level later in the game, in the level. And so the shovel, it is extreme fun to zip around, and it's also even more fun in the horde levels that are there. But but we had like some feedback on those that people don't really expect them in such a game. So we have a couple of ideas there. So, but for the game, we will much more concentrate on story levels, linear levels that are using the shovel for combat. We basically you can shoot the shovel through the enemies if there is the surface behind them. So you can give them fly through them, and the motivation was basically to do something special. And I think also the tarot cards, they are not really 100% what we would like them to be, but we will see. Like the thing is, look, if there would be more sales, like we would think bigger, right?
Yeah.
Now we need to
But I
think
mean, hey,
like
at least you're in early access, and you have time to iterate. And I guess I've seen with other developers that kind of seems to help with the pressure, and people's kind of like, they're like, okay, it actually allows a lot of people to, I guess, become invested, knowing that it's going to continue to get better, versus, I don't know, if they got into it and they didn't like the way it was, if that was the finished product or something. It just shows that it can evolve with time.
I have one thing that I maybe wanted to say. For this, we want to we're planning to have multiple updates, and one of the updates will be during the year multiple bonus maps that will be outside of the story episodes. We will
side stories,
side stories like bonus levels.
Okay,
which
cool.
is like a surprise, but we will promote this in coming weeks.
Awesome.
Medium.
I'm excited for that, for sure. Yeah.
I've been a lifelong comic book dork. That was kind of the first thing I ever got into. And just looking at these cutscenes or background info, I have no doubt in my mind that the quality of the artwork in this game could be on any comic book cover right now. And that's saying a lot, because as much as I've read and written, a lot of times you kind of see kind of an amateurish attempt, which is, people are trying their hardest, but most people are just doing kind of a passion, love of the game type of thing. They just it's an avenue, right, to get their art out. But it's unusual for me to see some art design that qualitatively better than average in something that's not, say, exactly comic books and not doing. So I just wanted to brag on that a little bit, but I was also a little bit curious, is that something that you specifically or anybody on the team has done professionally to date in that capacity, or is it just something you just happen to have a talent for and just was like, oh, here's some place I can really get that out?
Yeah, so that's a funny story, because the art is done by our team member who also does the concept art and the 2D art, Matusz Salontaj. He's like a young comic artist who really we met him on Instagram. I think someone sent me his profile and we started talking, and he was doing some type of comic, but then when we got together and I told him what concept art is and how it works and how he could grow, etc., so suddenly he just blossomed into a huge his art. I always loved his art, but what we did together, basically it works like I write the story, I write basically the outline and what each of the screens has to be, and then he starts drawing and then he gives it his own spin. He always changes stuff here and there, and I enjoy so much working with him. When we were thinking about the jokes that are in the comics, then we were laughing so much, and it was really labor of love, the comic. And I really have to say that Matusz is, during my whole career, one of my most favorite people to work with, and I really appreciate you mentioning that you really like the art, because that's something that I also myself praise and cherish on the project.
Yeah. Every time that I came upon a comic book in the game to collect to get more backstory, I was always excited. I'd see one off in the distance. I'm like, I can't wait to get that. And how do I get over there? I'm trying to get over there early and stuff. And every time I get one, yeah, they're really cool. I think it's a great way to do backstory, and it obviously fits with the already, kind of comic aesthetic that it's going for, with that almost kind of cel-shading-ish look and stuff to it. Yeah.
But when I thought about how I want to establish the story, I was thinking something between Terry Pratchett, whose books I really liked when growing up, and maybe Van Helsing or something like that, and also
really over the
top. Mr. Hyde.
Yeah,
Mr. Hyde 100% is
Yeah,
for sure.
exactly.
No
Yeah,
doubt.
so that was actually one of the inspirations. But actually, even before I started researching the art direction for the character, Mate described him exactly the way that he is right now. Right? Maybe not
Yeah.
the cylinder, right? But yeah, I mean, it was a pleasure. Also, like maybe a couple of jokes, like when I was thinking about like who the villain will be, right? Then obviously you have the two goddesses and Death being their employee, and then who would basically step in and try to disrupt the balance between life and death. And I was then suddenly I saw something about Elon Musk. He's so ambitious, so really disruptive, and I was like, that sounds like a Bizarro universe Elon Musk, right? So I was like, okay, his name will be Kieran Husk, and so and he's basically
Bang
founded
on.
the anti-death movement, right? And also there's crypto, like death pays the gravediggers in Ripcoin. So it's like a lot of low hanging fruit humor, but it's not really like we're not comedians, right? But like we like to do stupid jokes. And even with Mate, when we founded the company years before, because we met in Brazilian jiu-jitsu training, right? Because we basically, we are Gracie heritage, yeah.
Oh, okay.
We are actually right now we used to be under Nick Brooks from the UK, who is Roger Gracie descendant, but we met in like in our country, in Slovakia. It's like post-communist country, so we had like, there was a group in 2007, like mobster guys meeting, and like a fight club or something like that, which then grew into like a Octagon Fighting Academy. But it was really like, we went there and we started talking we sparred together, and we started talking like, you're the game developer? Yeah, I'm an architecture student, and I develop games. I try to do, and so we started talking, and then we got away from that group, and I founded like the first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu team or like a group in Slovakia, and then Mate joined me and he helped me run it. And every time we went back from training, we were talking about like when we would have like a gaming studio, like video game studio, like how would we do things, and what do we value on video games and the creation process, and like how would we like to work. And we shared the passion, and one day when I was renting him out the room, then everything got together, and now we're here.
Hell yeah.
It burns, burn them!
Hi folks, it's time for our famous burning questions round, formerly the rapid fire round. Our guest has 5 minutes to answer 5 questions given to us from a random question generator, including the trick question that we added. So, Tibor, and apologies for butchering your name again, I really will try to roll my R's. But, question 1. What's something that you know you should start, but you haven't?
That I should start, but I haven't.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Cleaning
Anything
my
and
flat.
everything.
It's like I really, since we announced the game in September, I had no time to really do some cleaning.
What was the last dream you can remember about?
Oh, my last dream. Wow. I usually dream a lot, and I remember them in the morning. Wait, I dreamt something today. Yeah, the last dream was, Robert, I wrote you that I woke up from a nap, and suddenly I thought that the time shift between the UK and Slovakia, that I will not be able to make this podcast. Yeah, that was my last dream, yeah.
Oh my gosh, no way. So, question 3. What's your story about breaking the law?
My story about breaking the law.
Nothing that is incriminating, of course. We don't want the police turning up to your house.
I think all the buildings have been already reconstructed. I used to do graffiti when I was young. I used to do graffiti, and I used to do a lot of get into fights. Like in our country, it used to be quite weird because we had a lot of skinheads, like Nazis. Me and my friends, we used to be like skater guys and hip hop and punk rock. So we used to do that, like fights with skinheads maybe. Since then, I only breathe on one nostril. So.
Oh, really?
Same, but for different reasons, less cool reasons.
My
was
reason
born this way.
my reason was 2 elbows that I got after.
Well, that'll do it.
like,
That'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
White tie to your face.
Yeah.
Do you have any memories before the age of 5?
Yeah, a lot of memories. When I was 1 year old, we moved to Vietnam, and we lived there for 5 years. My father was a journalist and like a reporter, foreign reporter, and I remember a lot of stuff from the age of 1 to 6, like mainly from Vietnam. Yeah.
And the last question is, if Gravelord made $1 million, would you retire or keep making games?
I'll never stop making games. Like, look, retiring is a thing that, like, always is just about the amount of money that you want to have during retirement, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I can imagine a time when since I saw my first video game or like a arcade game in a hotel in Vietnam, actually, like that was the first time I've seen something like that, and since then I wasn't able to think about anything else. I actually haven't been diagnosed with ADHD, but I had the most symptoms as a kid, and like that was the only thing that just really got me hooked. And when I was programming I had to learn Polish to learn assembler, because the only book about assembler in our library was in Polish. So I had to learn the words and then learn some assembler, then basic. So
If I had a hat, I'd take it off twice.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's an
That's pretty
achievement.
badass.
Yes.
I mean, no, it's like just that was the goal. Like, do games. Like, how do games work? What are the pixels? How are they created? And like, I got hooked. And yeah, so I will always make games, board games, or I don't know, anything.
Just out of curiosity, what was the first game you remember being like, I want to dissect this and know everything and how it works under the hood?
Yeah, I would say like the first when I first came in contact with, like, I used to code, right? Some stupid games, but nothing special. But when I really knew that like this is something that I want to do full time, and I can't do this full time, it was Hammer Editor. Like probably then, and maybe yeah, it was like Counter-Strike, and I started doing maps for Counter-Strike, and also then Quake. Because like in our country, it was really like the progress, how you maybe got in contact with video games was linear. How they were released, and that's when you were able to get them. But in our country, we were not able to get a game. There were no shops, and if there was a shop, the amount of money that you will have to spend was like a half of a month's salary of a like an adult person. So we all, of course, had to like pirate the games because we had no chance. And now I have a collection of games that I used to love when I was a kid and couldn't have. So yeah, so when I got in contact with the Hammer Editor, then Quake Radiant was there too, and then Morrowind came, and editor for Morrowind, like and Oblivion, and like. But the game that we used to play around a lot and like modifying the CFGs was Operation Flashpoint with my buddy in university. We spent a lot of time with that, and I actually spent a lot of time with text adventures on Commodore 64.
Wow, that's going back. Wow.
No, I used to start on PMD-85. Like it was a local Czechoslovakian micro computer. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's something I always love hearing about, is like the different countries, like there was like different consoles and like different computers that, like, you know, most people just will never hear about otherwise.
Yeah, like, you know, like there was a wall between our side of the world and yours, but man, old times. But now it's better, much better. Hopefully it stays this way, because like our country, don't want to get political, but it's crazy.
Yeah. So bringing the subject then back to Gravelord then, and in terms of kind of audience expectation and the type of game that they feel, you know, works within like the boomer shooter scene, do you tailor specific mechanics towards like an ideal player?
That's a really good question. Basically, what we do, we play the game a lot, and we go by our guts, quite a lot. We try to listen to the players, but the ideal player, I think it doesn't exist, because then everyone would just try to buy the game. But I think you can also see that the difficulty in the game is not really what it might be ideal right now. But what we do is that I play the game and I have to decide if the difficulty is okay, because like the guys, they play it quite a lot and they get better, and suddenly we have a game that no one wants to play because it's too hard. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe
I can't remember if I'm playing on normal or hard, but I mean, I feel like the game, it has a decent challenge at times as far as like how much damage you're taking and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, it's a old school shooter, so you gotta do a lot of bobbing and weaving and jumping around and stuff to not be able to get absolutely obliterated. But
what we want to do. Sorry.
I was going to say, whenever I'm bunny hopping in the game, I literally hear the Quake Ranger go in the back of my head.
Yeah.
It's the exact same movement with the mechanics.
Yeah, so we really wanted to make the game feel like Quake, because Quake is, for me, like when I start Iron Whale and I play some of the community maps in Quake, like my mind goes like, it relaxes. Something happens. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I'm home, like yes,
Yeah.
and even like I have a 144 hertz monitor, and the Quake on Iron Whale, it runs super fast, so it's so smooth, and it's so like something in my brain just goes like
Massages your brain.
yeah, and so we wanted to go with this, and I mean,
I think you achieved that quite well. The feeling of Quake. I mean, as far as like the gameplay and design, I feel like it's very Quake. And then you got that the tone is like a build engine, a Shadow Warrior or a Duke Nukem or something, but you get those quips and that character that, Quake is great from a visual and gameplay perspective. So a lot of the draw is in how it plays and what you're looking at, but there's not like a lot of character to the person you're playing. Whereas I feel like Build Engine is the only one of that time that really did that well. Is the quips and the things like that really made the character. You know what I mean? It gave personality to the character.
We tried that. We also did this with Vaporum. So we had like a strong character. It's not four character party, but one character, the main character. Yeah.
And outside of the narrative aspect of like the tarot cards, what made you choose to go with that as like the way of getting skills and upgrades in the game? Because I actually didn't even notice, because it's just me not paying attention, I think, but that you have the tiers. And see, I thought every time I picked up tarot cards that I was getting new cards. So I was like, yeah. But actually the whole time I was trading cards out. I'm like, oh no. Because when I finally noticed, I was like, no. So I started losing stuff. I'm like, why am I not doing this anymore?
Yeah, this is actually something that we can do better, that we will try to redeem. So yeah, there are 3 tiers of the cards, and they basically it's based on the amount of how it manipulates the card, manipulates the result of you shooting or like basically you playing. But we also had a couple of fun cards like the rat spawning card. I don't remember the name.
I love that
right
one.
now.
Yeah, I accidentally gave that one away. I didn't mean to, but I love that one. I think you have to like, what is it? After like 2 enemies or something, there's a 50% chance of it spawning or whatever.
Probably Mate would be the
something
right
like that.
person.
But I would sit there and it would spawn, and I knew this was a thing, but then I'd start shooting it and just unloading ammo on it.
Yeah,
like, why is it not dying? And then it's like, oh wait, it's friendly.
That's why we made it yellow, because like previously when it was blue and just bigger.
But my brain's just like, enemy, shoot it.
Yeah. Exactly. So maybe we will try to make this more visible for the player, that they are friendly. But there's multiple things that we basically wanted to have in the game. It used to be a weapon,
like a highlight over it,
like a whistle, and you would whistle it, and then reds would spawn, right? But that didn't work that well, and so we changed this in this way. But we'll see.
The little blue rats, like they mess with me sometimes, because I'm like, I don't see them, and you're like, nah.
Mate actually hates them a lot, and he really
get rats in games. They're just so hard to hit on the floor. I've wasted so much shotgun shells and stuff trying to hit a rat.
Even in Dusk it's the same.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So with the you got the tarot card system, right? So Did you ever, in the development, think of making the game a roguelike? Since that,
Yes,
at least for me, seemed like a roguelike-ish mechanic.
There's this one part that I talked about with the publishers. So we did have a deal on the table with one big publisher, which didn't go through because of this stuff that happened in the industry and everything started falling apart. But it should have been like a multiplayer co-op, something between Left 4 Dead and roguelike, and you should have like the cards there and a lot of mechanics. But we basically just had to get back on what's the word? Sorry, back on our feet, back on track, and just concentrate on the game, because we lost a lot of time with trying to cater to the ideas of the publisher and publishers, and it was a huge waste of time. And then also, like, we were not like, it wasn't a huge budget, you know. So when I see what they're doing now, I'm like,
it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, like, that being an original concept kind of idea, like
it was like just one pivot that we tried to get for the publisher. It actually always was supposed to be just one boomer shooter.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, I was going to say, because that's kind of what Dross, our last guest, like, his game is like a Left 4 Dead kind of roguelike experience. So it was just interesting for you to say
which
that.
one is that? Which
Dross, yeah.
Okay,
Our previous guest on it's a science fiction shooter, and it looks
3-ish.
amazing. It does, yeah. It looks amazing.
I would try it because I love those games. Actually, like, in myself, like, right now we are thinking, like, after Gravelord, we will basically have to scale down. There's no other thing that you can do in this market. We basically have all the tools now to make FPS shooters and boomer shooters. We really have all the knowledge. We have all the technology. We have like an awesome level editor. And I have to say that this will be one of my favorite updates for the game when the level editor and Steam Workshop support goes out. Because, like, we have also a couple of interesting people making content for it then when it goes online.
I've seen a lot of people have a lot of interest in the level editor. Mayo was actually somebody I saw in his video that he really is interested in the level editor.
Yeah. Actually, Mayo was really nice when I talked to him, and he really was really nice in giving the feedback, constructive feedback and everything. And also the video that he did was like really very fair and like
he's not afraid.
He's usually pretty genuine and honest about his opinions.
He's not afraid to tell you what's on his mind. But
I appreciate that as well. Like,
that's the sort of person you want around you. You don't want to be surrounded by people that tell you what you want to hear. You need to surround yourself with people that tell you what you need to hear. Yeah.
That's how we work. Like, that's how we work in the team. Like, we really, for someone or some people who joined the team and then left, it was quite a hostile environment, because like every idea they had was attacked. But the thing is, when it gets attacked and it stands the ground, like the idea itself will stand the ground, then it's a good idea. And this is the thing that we have in our team, thanks to us being so tight together, you know. So we know each other a long time. So
What is the early access, like, what does it offer you in terms of developing for the future of the game? Because I know you're planning, there's at least one more episode, and then you were mentioning side story kind of missions and stuff like that.
We're doing 2 more episodes and then a couple of bonus maps. We're not sure about the length of the 2 episodes, because from what we know now, the first episode was quite longer than we expected it to be for new players. What we expect the early access to give us is basically a lot of feedback, some time to breathe, you know, even though the sales are not that great, you know, but we still have like the investor who trusts the project, and we know that the 1.0, when it goes out, it will be a solid game. And obviously now the sentiment about early access, it's the way it is, and especially with story-based games. Our friends from Games Farm, they released Jotun Slayer, a Slovak company, and it's like a vampire survivor, Viking vampire survivors, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it a top-down game?
Top-down, and like, that's obviously a good game for early access, because you have the same gameplay loop. You have just a couple of maps that you can play through and through and unlock more stuff. And with our game, it's, if there is no maps, there's no gameplay, right? So you have to produce maps and release them, and then basically then stop. The game is done, and maybe do some episodic, maybe DLCs. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we actually we have some idea about the horde level or endless or something like mechanically something more towards something of roguelike game.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Right now we need to have like concentrate on multiple stuff.
Yeah.
We have controller support coming, we have Steam Deck support coming, the level editor. We are gonna do some level speedrun leaderboards, and so we have a lot of stuff to do.
Sweet.
But yeah,
Console?
I think New Blood is really
1.0.
shown that early access can work for these style of games and just shooters and stuff in general.
Yeah, I actually talked to Dave Oshry because I asked him like, look, it's not going well. We
Right.
expected a little better from early access, and he told me like, no, it's quite normal with early access. Just do your thing and concentrate on the updates and marketing. And also, like, he told me that Dusk basically during its early access, it didn't have that, it didn't earn that much, So
Yeah.
so that it's not such a big deal. Of course, there are games that during the early access they had like huge sales, but they also had Proteus, for example, had Kickstarter, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Look, I have to be honest. I'm not really satisfied with the job I did with the marketing and PR, but we actually had coverage from IGN. We had exclusive announcement.
I was
going to
say that, yeah.
And so I did some stuff, right? But it was just me. And in other companies, it's multiple teams. So multiple people in one team. For example, the Jotun Slayer example, the lead of the studio told me like there's 5 guys doing all the PR and marketing stuff. So I was doing this on my evenings besides developing the game during my days.
Yeah, I feel like marketing is always just a tough one, especially now where we're getting so many games and so many old school boomer shooter-ish kind of games. It's just hard to, I mean, I'm going to say that like your game visually and conceptually does stand out from the crowd. It's not like it just kind of like falls in a little bit and it's just like everything else. It is very different visually, mechanically, and the way it feels and plays and just shows itself to you. It's very unique, but it's still hard to market because like you release it, and even if you do like really good job with marketing, there's still that chance it just kind of like something else just comes along. And like you were talking about with Doom and stuff like that, anything big in the FPS space is going to kind of just like blanket everything. And that's the one downside of it, I guess.
Yeah, but that's like tough luck. It's the way it is. So like I chose this, and guys joined me, and I have responsibility towards the team, towards everybody, and
exactly.
Just like there's a saying, but I can't say that.
I'm sure we've heard worse on this show.
It's bad words are there some, but basically the sum of it's toughen up basically.
So speaking of that, how are you sourcing the feedback to improve the game? So is it just like speaking with creators that make videos for it? Are you looking at reviews, or are you on Reddit and checking out what people are saying? How are you getting that feedback?
So I would say that one of the best feedbacks that we had was from Mayo, because like that was a constructive feedback from a person that is really able to articulate their ideas. We might not agree with all of them, but you at least get a structured and really well formulated opposing idea, right? So you can form your in a better way, because like you have one opponent through which you learn. But we are doing like playtests. We had a couple of friends come in. We had people who play FPS games and people who don't play FPS games. We look at every comment that people give us. Sometimes we're just like, I don't understand what he wants. And then you think like, will I take the time and ask what he actually means by saying what he said? It's really, and also like, still you have to think about loud minority bias, right? Because like that's the thing when you get feedback. It's really complicated. So you basically, when you're a small team, you have to go with your gut on a lot of stuff, unless you get some feedback like Mayo's.
That's the great thing about Mayo is I always say that even if you don't agree with what he's saying, he at least gives you a pretty good set of criteria as to exactly the reason why. So you're not, and kind of a missing quality in the YouTuber space. It's a lot of kind of opinions, or you just have to take my word for it kind of an attitude. And there's not really like here's an objective outside of me that I'm trying to appeal to. Do you agree? If you don't, you at least know why I came to this conclusion, and then it's a lot more useful for everybody where they can just go, well, that's the way he thinks. At least we know now. And I'm not just guessing like, maybe he had a bad day, or maybe he just hates Elden Ring.
Yeah,
or,
I mean, I think
whatever it
you
is.
get like one of two things. It's either like a shit ton of glazing, or it's just like absolute hatred towards something. Like there's never like a middle ground, which I think Mayo does that perfect, right? He has a perfect middle ground for the most part. Sure, he has some pretty strong opinions leaning on both directions, but he's still pretty middle, where he's like, he's pretty brutally honest, and sometimes that comes across as like, wow, does he really just absolutely hate this? But at the same time, he still somehow ends up like ending the video saying, well, actually, it's a really good game. You should still play it. You know what I mean? Like, I can't remember there was something I saw where he like criticized a lot, but then at the end he was like, but you know, you should still probably play it because it's still pretty good. Like for the most part, it's good. I just have a lot of issues with certain things, that kind of stuff.
There's actually a lot of value in a triggered response, right? Because no one gets triggered about something that he doesn't care about.
Right.
So if you trigger someone to give you some kind of opinion, then its value is in offer, like it gets offered to you, right? So then you just have to analyze if the person is able to eloquently, like, is it eloquently explain like what they mean. And then, but sometimes there are people who just like, this is shit because sorry guys, this is bad.
We've had worse.
This is bad, and I said like, yeah, okay, so why? Like, just because I don't like it, I don't care, you know. So yeah, it happens.
Earlier,
So sorry, go ahead, Tony.
sorry, I was going to say earlier. I remember you saying, Wishlist was plan A, and that you need to have a plan A, B and C. What would you say is like, from your experience, you've now put out 2 games. That's a lot more games than most people ever put out.
Yeah.
Sorry, third. So what would you say have you found is kind of like your tried and true method to naturally kind of spread your game? Because word of mouth is really powerful in this space. Have you found any tricks that you...
I would say talk about the game as soon as possible. Don't get no for an answer. If someone doesn't respond the first time, then try to bug them the second and the third. And also like nepotism, like, yeah, it's like it.
Straight up
it's how the
nepotism.
business works. I'm sorry. Like, how many game studios you have from Nebraska and how many you have from California?
Right. Yeah.
Or like, it's like when I went to GDC twice, it's like everyone's in the area of San Francisco, and everybody knows everybody, and the journalists know the developers, etc. And I mean, we're a small company in post communistic Czechoslovakia that got split, and yeah, actually, like, yes, from Czech Republic, a lot of friends who are from Slovak Republic work in Czech studios. Actually, Beat Saber, Beat Saber.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the VR
so
game.
Beat Saber is not a Czech game. It's Slovak game. Two Slovaks made the game, right? And they sold it to Facebook for a huge amount of money, right? So from this region, a lot of games are coming to the market. Even Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary. Now there are a lot of studios that provide services for bigger businesses, and maybe it's because we did have a limited access to gaming, and we had to make our own games since childhood.
I think it's cool that there's more and more games, especially in the indie space, coming from so many more places now. Even though video games aren't easy to make, it's a lot more accessible to try to make them than it used to be. And there's a lot more ways to get things out there than there used to be with stuff like itch or getting stuff on Steam or whatever. There's a lot more avenues to go down now, and so many people from all over the world can get things out, and it's honestly great because you get so much more.
Also,
I think that's why indies are making some of the more ambitious and interesting games out there too.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, one thing that we need to change, we need to be more flexible. We are really, like, I call our I call our studio like dinosaurs. We're really like 40, around 40-ish years old, and
What? There's nothing wrong with that age.
No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
I mean,
I'm
that
45
well.
this year.
yeah,
Calm
but
down, King
not
of the Dinosaurs.
not when you want to make something like think out of the box, right? Me, myself, and Mate, we tend to think a lot of in what's the word, like walk lanes, or like the lanes that we used to take to solve a lot of things, you know. And we don't really not really that inventive anymore,
Right.
and we don't really want to risk as much anymore because we have like livelihoods, right? And you obviously can land a good game development job in a company and don't have to spend your earnings to make an indie game that has some really wacky idea, but it's mostly reserved for the younger developers, right? So but maybe we can come to a sweet spot, a compromise, you know, in this. And so that's what we need to learn. And I didn't really want to sound like success in game development means you have to have protection or use nepotism, but it's really something that really helps. And nepotism, I mean that in not really in that like a pejorative way. I mean it in a way where, like, I saw our tweets skyrocket when I just sent a tweet like for retweeting to Marky or Fairweather, like our mappers who are from communities and have friends who have friends who have friends, right? So it's not nepotism in that bad kind of way, but you basically have to utilize any context you have for spreading the word.
Yeah, I get
Well,
you. You got to play the game.
Yes.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Of course.
I said you got to play the game.
I got a question. You mentioned at the beginning that you've done work for large AAA studios. So what is the difference in terms of the process of making a simple decision and creating something from? You're laughing already. I can hear you're going to give a story from a AAA studio versus what you're doing now.
Yeah, so it's a great question. First of all, like the studio that I worked at that made games for Activision, it was like a AA studio. We did hunting games for like Cabela's Hunting Adventures and Dangerous Hunt and this kind of stuff. So
Deadforge as well.
So it was not really AAA, but
Well, I mean,
then
it's
then the
interesting to hear
studio
someone doing that.
then the studio went and became a part of Bohemia Interactive and worked on Arma and
Okay.
Daisy, I think. I'm not sure. I was out of the company then, and then I did some assets for Mafia 3 through some kind of third-party studio that was supplying assets, and then other projects. Like, it's a long story. So what is different? Like, it's extremely different. Like, first of all, like we don't do overtime. Like I do overtime. I myself I do. Guys don't. Like I'm telling them, like, don't do overtime. We don't do crunch. Like, really, there was a situation where there was crunch needed, and I was like, guys, let's not do this. But the guy said, like, we want to, right? So, and I experienced horrible crunch in company where we were releasing the game in September, October, and during the whole summer, I worked 6 days a week, 10 to 12 hours, and the Saturdays, we went out because, like, you were so stressed and you had to let your steam out. And then I was sleeping during Sunday, and it was over and over for multiple months, and it was so taxing. Like, if I wouldn't do jujitsu during that time in the mornings, right before work, I would lose my mind. Basically, it's and the situation, like, I don't really want to tell everything because a lot of the stuff is quite toxic. But yeah, I mean, the main thing is the value of human resource, so to say. I mean, we know each other and we are quite tightly knit, and we do have arguments, right? Like, as every family has arguments, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be the main thing. Also, the Q&A, for example, how it worked in the bigger companies, and compared to us, we test our games ourselves a lot. Like, really, we test them, and we have like a bug reporting system built in right in the game where it creates a screenshots, and like you write the description, send it to Asana as a ticket, and then we sort it, and we basically repair the bugs. So this was really different, and yeah, the overall feeling, like you are. I can't say on behalf of the guys because like mostly the leadership is on my shoulders, but I think like last time Dark, our Peter coder, who's basically one of the best programmers I've ever met, we talked about like what if it doesn't work out and we have to close the studio, and he said like, yeah, I would like to continue together even after that, because like me imagining, he was saying like me imagining working at some sound system for another Arma game or collision system or rendering system for another hunting game. He was fed up with it. It's like he doesn't really want to go back to it.
Yeah. I very much identify, having worked for myself after being made redundant from a corporation. It's a way of life and control and happiness that you feel this is my thing, I'm doing what I love, and I can't go back to that way of life.
I have something for you.
Okay, Tyler Brannon from In the Keep, and we've touched on this briefly, but he was just trying to confirm, is Marquee Music Pro still working on Gravelord?
Yeah, Marky actually did a couple of maps. I think two, the second one and the third one for the first episode. And we're still in touch. Like Marky is, if he's not actively involved, he's still giving us his thoughts and feedback. So I consider him as a part of the team. But and I'm also looking for maybe him doing some more maps for second and third episode.
A resounding yes.
He is a busy guy. Like, he's one of the most talented people I've ever met. Like, I mean, his musical stuff and his level design and many other things that he probably does that we don't know of. But I would really love for Marky being on the team even for the second and the third episode.
Right on. All right, and we got another less of a question and more of a statement, but this is from Super Slime 64. He says, already beat the whole game, or what's out so far. He says he's waiting for Nightmare Mode. Did you want to unpack a little bit about what Nightmare Mode is, if you can?
Yeah, so Nightmare mode obviously is the hardest play mode difficulty in Quake. First of all, what we want to do with the difficulty right now is just like parametric, but what we want to do, we want to go with the same style how Quake maps are done, that every difficulty has some kind of changes in the encounters, like enemy-wise, etc. And the Nightmare difficulty, yeah, I mean, like, we'll see. Nothing's written in the stone yet, but I think the hardest difficulty will still be Nightmare. Maybe we won't call it Nightmare, but we'll see. Would be cool though.
Nice. I wanted to, this was my own personal question. I'll abuse my time here for my own ends. But you actually had touched on this a little bit. You mentioned Bohemia Interactive, which worked on Operation Flashpoint, which you already had gotten some experience with. Now, I know the Czech Republic has kind of exploded to popularity in some sense because of the Kingdom Come series that I believe the combat designer of the first game, I'm not sure what the second game, but I know he worked on Operation Flashpoint. Has that been kind of a rising tide that brings all the ships up at all? Since y'all are right next door, I know you mentioned you actually have a lot closer work ties than people might assume.
Well, we don't know that many people on the Kingdom Come team. I know Dan Vavra. I've met him a couple of times and talked to him. I have to say, I loved Kingdom Come Deliverance for what the game is, but I hate combat.
Yeah.
I didn't play through the first part because like the combat for me is like a barrier that I cannot go through.
Same.
And like I love the story. I love, like, you know how it feels to play the game. We have Czech Republic and Slovakia has so many castles here. So many castles and ruins and fortresses, and we visit them with families or with school, etc. And walking through them, you always thought like how it could like be in real life, right? And the game does this, and for me it's so valuable for me as an architect or level designer, right? And so, and I also like the I don't know, the atmosphere and the nature. Like, I really love the game for what it is in this area, but the combat is something that really stops me from playing it, and I will not play it until they probably do some kind of accessibility options for players.
Good luck. Yeah, that was actually
I know,
my
kid-
quibble
Yeah.
too. The last video that I made is actually about that, and I actually brought in some other guy who was just obsessed, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna let you know I just do not enjoy it whatsoever. I also don't get it. So let me
It's
bring in
for
somebody
me
else
quick-
who just
it's-
loves it. So
It's quick time events for me. It's
it's tough.
The
Yeah.
combat is like, it's like the most VR feel, like looking and feeling combat. That's not in VR. Like it very much
Yeah.
is like, it looks like you're playing Blade and Sorcery, where you're like,
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
like you got to put
Super
weight
tricky.
into it, but like you're not
Camera's always
really
moving.
doing that. So it's really kind of interesting.
It reminded me kind of For Honor, but a lot slower.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was about.
I actually feel like because of that game would actually probably work better in VR. I think that game would actually probably be a better game in VR.
But
You never know.
I
don't
think
know.
that
Maybe it'll happen.
Maybe
maybe it
two
would
could
have
Yeah,
even more players if there was a combat system that would offer something else. But I have to say, I didn't actually know that the combat system designer was the one on Flashpoint, or if I understood correctly.
I was trying to find his name because it's kind of hard to find it, but there's a little short interview that Tobias does. Tobias, the PR guy. Tobias Stoltz-Zwilling, I think is his name. Sir Toby, you know, the guy with the great mustache. He mentioned in a Clubbit interview that the two were, he's like, you know, you got the realism from the Arma series, you got the gentleman whose name I don't have in front of me right now,
Yeah.
but he shows up in that documentary that they made about the Kingdom. If you just put in Kingdom Come documentary, it's the Game-Imentary documentary, but you'll see that combat designer in there talking about it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, apparently he's a
'Cause, like,
carryover from that series.
I love Flashpoint. I love Arma. Arma series not that much, but I play a lot of Reforger now. Like
Mhm.
that's like the Cold War era is my favorite, and also obviously the Vietnam War. But I mean, Kingdom Come has a lot of the freedom of Flashpoint and Arma series, etc. And that's what I really value about it. But you know, like combat. Yeah, well,
Yep, didn't stop me. Got the second one right here. Ready to go and get my ass kicked.
respect.
Yeah.
I have something for you.
All right. So, previous guest question from Dross, developer Alex. If a friend or family member wanted to get into game development, what would you say to them?
Don't.
Don't. Oh gosh. Well,
Maybe think twice before doing it professionally. It would be right now it's much better to do it as a hobby and see if you can come up with a concept that is original and worth the risk and the hurt and the
Crushing
was the-
disappointment.
hell on earth.
She disappointment.
Yeah. I mean, if there wasn't the investors that have our backs, like we would be long time. It would be over. But yeah, I mean, think twice and don't get don't borrow money to do it. Yeah, stuff like that.
all right. So, what question do you have for our future guest, which is G-Man Lives and Kirk Collects?
When will you cover Gravelord?
Yeah, great question right there.
Like I'm spamming your email and I'm watching every video that you put out and I'm like, why not us?
Funny thing is that it would be something that both of them would be very interested in because both of them are big Quake fans. So
Yeah, but they're probably overworked or burnt out from the shooters. But I can guarantee that like our game, the plans we have for it, and the maps, we basically what we want to do. What my plan or my philosophy with the level editor is revive the Quake mapping thing that like in a game, like give the mappers actually our level editor is based on Trench Broom, on modeling of Trench Broom. But it has a lot of quality of life improvements for the mappers that we want to make contests, right? I'm preparing to give a lecture about level design in a company, and I plan to design courses for level designers in our country, in educational institutions, because like I also want to give a lecture on Faculty of Architecture where I studied, to show the architects that like it's also valid career, like virtual architecture or level design, because like I went to study architecture because I wasn't able to do anything with games besides programming, right? I wanted to do levels, but architecture studying was the good thing. So we have many plans, and we basically want to, to have sustainable production of levels and a community that is thriving and enjoying each other's production, and like, yeah.
Nice, yeah.
From what I know now, we will have a couple of updates. As I mentioned, level editor, Steam Workshop support, controller support with a weapon wheel in-game, Steam Deck support, and the 1.0 version will go out on consoles, obviously, and we will have multiple map releases throughout the development. And we have maybe something in mind. We don't know how we will do it with the other gaming modes, play modes. We will probably do an edition with an art book and soundtrack.
That sounds nice.
Also, music. I completely forgot about the music. Like, we will have more music tracks in the game. We basically want to have some, like, the music style is obviously metal.
Yeah, it's great. I
But,
love it.
yeah, and actually one of my friends joined the team in working on this, and his track is heard in the devlogs right now. It's the track Cadaveric Unrest thematically. But yeah, so music we will release like a Founders Edition or something like that's our plans, right?
Yeah.
Right, for the 1.0. Right now we're just 5 people, right? So it's really hard to manage everything, but yeah, we'll get there.
Sounds like a hell of a roadmap.
In the future, I really enjoy the cards. Do you think in later episodes new tarot cards will be introduced?
That's a good question. I would like there to be multiple cards, but the whole card system is something that we are thinking about right now, what we're going to do with it and how we're going to tweak it. And it deserves like really like the diligent, what's the word, like focus, right? So right now I'm not sure how. I hope there could be a couple of cards, but some of the cards are not really useful outside of the horde levels, and so this is something we really need to work on. So yeah,
Sweet. Alrighty. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining yet another episode of the Quad Damage Podcast. Thank you so much for Tibor from FatbotGames Games for joining us to talk about Gravelord. Really appreciate it. And thanks to Tobacco Tantoni for finally getting his to come online. We've been teasing him with various dates that have gone through, and now he's here. So yeah, much better questions than I expected out of the blue, and pleased with the result here. So yeah, thanks for joining us today. Gentlemen, let's get our stuff out of the way first, because everyone knows who we are and where we are. Robert, where can we find you on the interwebs?
You can find the Quad Damage Podcast Twitter at the Quad Dam Podcast on x.com/Twitter. You can find us on Blue Sky as well, Quad Damage Podcast, and also on Reddit under Quad Damage Podcast.
Deadforge. Of
course, you can find me at Lord of the RPG on X. You can find me Deadforge on Patreon, Deadforge on YouTube, and I believe that's it. If you want to follow my Twitch, because I've been thinking about once I get all of this rearranged, possibly doing some streaming, if my laptop can handle it. Then it should be Deadforge also on Twitch. I believe. I think I changed it. It should be that as well. So if you want to go follow that for a potential future thing going on. Yeah, I can't remember. I haven't been on Twitch in so long that I can't really entirely remember. Hiak show's back, so maybe me and him will like stream together or something. Figure something out.
Dream team. Tony, we didn't technically introduce you as such, but if you don't know, Tony makes a lot of kind of retro style video reviews, classic old school type stuff, and he's really funny, surprisingly funny for the
Surprisingly.
not like because I no I'm
Oh damn, Tony!
this is why I don't speak in public. What
I appreciate it.
What I mean to say is surprisingly funny for the genre because most people in this space are not that funny, even if they're funny-ish. Like Grimbeard to me is hilarious. Like the guy's just a nonstop set of unique jokes. Tony is probably, this is not an exaggeration, probably the easy second for the funniest gaming YouTuber I've run across. Where I'm just like, what a ridiculous! I never would have thought of that. You know, that kind of thing.
I'm in perfect company there.
I know.
It's probably the best compliment I've gotten in maybe a year. You can find me at Tobacco Tan Tony on, I think, every platform there is. Twitch, Reddit, Blue Sky, Twitter, Threads, I think even. If there's a thing, I'm probably on it. Follow me if you want to see people talk about third-person shooters, horror games on YouTube. Follow me on anything else if you want to see me rant about the WWE. That's all I really have to offer.
The wide gamut of things. And if you just haven't gotten your fill from all these other guys and you're like, how can I waste some time? I'm on YouTube at Midnight Medium, a Midnight Medium on Twitter. Think of Midnight Medium on Blue Sky? I don't think someone had got ahead of me on that platform yet because it's burgeoning and yet to be fully corrupted. What else? Oh, you can light money on fire on Patreon if you'd like to. And now I'll leave the guest of honor spot or the spotlight, I should say, back to Mr. Tibor. Where can we find you and updates on Gravelord, anything else you might be up to?
Yeah, so the best way would be our Twitter account, our Facebook account, our YouTube account.
What?
Basically
everywhere.
Also, like everywhere, but I think I post a lot on Twitter, and I'm under Smuphix, SMUPHIX, and sorry for that. Like, I'm not making it easy for the people, but we're under FatbotGames Games on Twitter, on Blue Sky too. And yeah, I mean, we really like feedback. If it's constructive, the better. And don't don't be afraid to contact us. Even tell us like that how bad the game is. So it doesn't matter. Like,
don't be afraid to contact him. G-Man lives in company, right?
Yeah, I mean, anyway, then anyone can help with some kind of a coverage or sharing information about our game. Like, it's much appreciated because like we really got hit hard by the Steam algorithm. Every time, like, you do your best, you try to learn the things, and then the algorithm changes. Right? So that's what happened. But yeah, I mean, like, it's our responsibility, no one else's. But yeah, I would be happy for you to contact us.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, great episode. I think that's all for us. We just have one more thing until we next see you. Deadforge.
And thanks a lot, guys, for having me.
Yeah.
Absolute pleasure, my man. Absolute pleasure. And you will join us for future episodes, believe me.
I would love to.
Time to end the greatest boomer shooter podcast in the world. Keep on booming.
Not end it permanently.